part 1 today. I hope you are all well and keeping warm here in WA. And those of you, if it's your first time joining us, welcome. Today we are going to go over the myths and realities of people working in your business with impairment and disability. So we're going to bust these myths and talk about the realities of it. Okay, now we will do an acknowledgement of country first off. 30-foot drop acknowledges the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognises their continuing connection to land, waters and the community. We pay our respects to the Indigenous people, their cultures, their beliefs, to both elders past and present. 30-foot drop funding. 30-foot drop would like to acknowledge the Department of Communities Disability Services for funding this and many other initiatives. Without their support, so many projects such as Two Wise Monkeys wouldn't see the light of day, and we'd be much more poorer for it as a community. This workshop is part of a Realities and Advantages of an Access and Inclusion grant awarded to 30-foot drop as part of an Information, Linkages and Capacity Building grant for 2018 and 2019. Housekeeping. So first off, we will go over some housekeeping, how our webinars are run, what you need to look out for, what you need to do, how to get the resources that you need, and stuff like that. So first off, unfortunately we do not have the resources to monitor all of our live streams. So if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, you won't be able to send me a direct message or ask questions along the way. But you will be able to, if you head to the video just below this, head to the link just below this video, which is www.30footdrop.com.au. You'll be able to go in there and hit the live box and send me a message. So please head over there if you have any questions. Also, we'll be covering a lot of information in a short period of time, so we just ask attendees to try and minimise any distractions because there's quite a lot of information to take in. So grab a pen and paper, grab a cup of coffee, and relax and take it all in. As well, if you talk about Two Wise Monkeys or 30-foot drop, please tag us in anything you talk about, because the more exposure we can get out there, the more changes that can be made within the disability and impairment sector. As well, if you know anyone that might benefit from these workshops, once again, just let them know, share our information with them. We'd love to help and make changes together, and we won't be able to do it without your help. We also record every single webinar, so if you did want to go back on today's webinar, at the end, once I've pressed end, you can then rewind it and watch it again if you've missed anything. And everything spoken about in all of our webinars, we have more in-depth information about it on our website, which is just to follow that link below, 30-foot drops link. Anything I talk about, if you wanted an accessibility checklist to go around your business, it's all there, all the stats and research. And at the end of the webinar, we do have a very short survey that we'd be really grateful to you guys if you could fill that out. Because the more feedback we can get on how we're going and what you're thinking, the better we can be moving forward. Okay, so let me now introduce myself. I am Lisa, and I am one of the Two Wise Monkeys. I am here no evil. So hopefully today you will hear no evil about impairment. And my story is more of a hidden one. At the age of 8, I was diagnosed with mild dyslexia. Teachers used to hit me on the head, read out my low marks, yell at me in front of my classmates. Why don't you understand? What's wrong with you? Making me feel completely dumb and unworthy. And I used to go home crying every day, not really understanding what was going on and why I wasn't grasping things like the other kids were. But despite these challenges growing up, I was determined to prove these teachers especially wrong and anyone that doubted me. I found my passion was in being creative, and at high school I was in an art class, my first proper art class, and I was doing a drawing and the teacher stopped and she was holding it up and showing everyone and saying, this is how you need to do it and this is perfect and blah blah blah. So that's where my passion started for art, and that's obviously where I was meant to go. So if you know anyone or yourself suffer from a learning impairment, then you're going to have something that you're going to be good at. It doesn't matter that you're not an amazing mathematician or speller, because at the end of the day, when you find that passion, it'll take you wherever you want to go with it. I've travelled around the world with my art diploma. I have a museum grade certificate where I can work with museum grade artwork. I've done picture framing, I've organised exhibitions, I have had my own exhibitions where I've sold my own artwork. I have a photography business at the moment, and I also still paint. So there's so much that you can do. It's just a matter of finding what it is and holding on to that hope that you are good enough and you are okay. And it's not the be all and end all to be the smartest person in your class. It is hard, but we all get there somehow. Now, the other monkey is Ben, and he is the director of 30 Foot Drop and Two Wise Monkeys. His story is definitely a more visible disability, whereas mine is more hidden. Ben had an accident which put him in a wheelchair, and I will let him tell you that story when he next joins us. But he's doing amazing things for the community, and he realised after his accident that people just don't know enough about disability and impairment, how to react to them, how to employ them, the stats and the numbers behind these people, how they feel. So this is why he's created this workshop and many other things, so that people can be aware and be more accepting of people with impairment and disability. So when we talk about the monkeys, isn't there supposed to be 3 wise monkeys? We've got hear no evil, see no evil, but where is speak no evil? I'd like you guys to take a guess. Who is speak no evil? You guys. The aim of today's workshop is to turn you into a wise monkey. You'll begin on a journey of realizing that, impairment or not, we are all the same and all human and deserve to be treated and acknowledged in the same way as everyone else. Such an important message, and that is why we are here today, because we are all equal, and we need to break down those barriers as to why people don't think that someone with a disability or impairment is different, because deep down they're the same person. We have feelings, we have a soul, we have so much to give, we have passions. So please, let's break down the barriers together. And if you really did want to become that third wise monkey, we now have these gorgeous t-shirts available on our website so that you guys can become that third wise monkey. Now those t-shirts are available in white and black, and they start at age 5 for kids, so your kids can have one, and they go all the way up to 5XL, and they're really good quality. Everyone loves them, and I always get asked when I'm wearing it, where did I get my t-shirt from? So that is the monkey business. Let's go through the outline and method. So how are we going to get you started on the path of a wise monkey? Well, there's a lot to learn about people with impairment and disabilities, and the opportunities that they represent as employees. First up, we will examine and bust some of the common myths around employing someone with an impairment. After the myth busting session, we'll get down to the brass tacks and look at the subsidies available when employing someone with a disability or impairment and how to access them. The final subject will be on workplace modifications and how to access the funding for these. To finish up at the end, we normally have an open forum where you can send any messages in to me and we can chat about them. But along the way, if you have anything along the way, please feel free to share those with me. Now, how are we going to cover this? What will our teaching method be? The answer is fun and open, honest discussion. If we can't be open and honest about disability and impairment and how we feel and how it affects us, then changes can't be made. You'll notice as well that there's very little written content on the slides, and that's because we want you to be able to understand every single page. We don't want complex information on there, meaning that people with all sorts of impairments can follow. And if you do have a hearing impairment and you're watching on Facebook, you now can turn the sound down, right down, and it will show you subtitles. So that is really great and exciting new thing for us. As well, it just makes it easier, and we don't believe in death by PowerPoint. So we hope you enjoy it. Next, we will go over the terminology of these 4 words, which are disability versus impairment and access and inclusion. First up, let's talk about impairment. An impairment is an injury, illness, or congenital condition that causes or is likely to cause a loss or difference of psychological and physiological function. In short, your impairment is your medical diagnosis. So my medical diagnosis is obviously mild dyslexia. A disability, on the other hand, is the loss or limitation of opportunities to take part in society on an equal level to others due to social and environmental barriers. It is, as the word implies, something that makes you unable to access or participate in something. So someone with dyslexia or any other kind of learning disability, this is an example of just some of the things that can affect people with learning disabilities. Too much wording, complex information, or stylized script can make it hard for people with learning disabilities or dyslexia or anything else like that hard to understand, which then makes it hard for them to get the right information that they need to use your business or service. This is especially important information for you guys today because some impairments, like mine, are hidden. And if I was to look at a website and it was too complex and a bit hard to understand, then someone like me would probably just give up and get my husband to figure it out for me. So it's important to remember that not everyone is going to find it easy. So please make your marketing and your websites simple and easy, just like what we have on our webinar today. Hopefully that makes sense to everyone, the difference between disability and impairment. Next, we will talk about the difference between access and inclusion. Access refers to the removal or reduction of barriers, physical and attitudinal, to participate in activities and functions of a community. At its core, access focuses a lot on the physical world around us and can be easily assessed with a checklist. Inclusion, on the other hand, is more of a psychological state of being and is a process hereby every person, irrespective of their age, disability, gender, religion, or sexual preference, who wishes to, can participate fully in all aspects of an activity and service in the same way as every other member in the community. So that is making sure that no matter who that person is, what they like to do in their life, everyone is included. Everyone's included in this cafe. There's no discrimination against someone with a disability or impairment. So please take a look and make sure that your business is inclusive to every human being. Okay, so if you have any questions about the terminology, please head over to our question box and ask away if you do. Now we will be talking about the employing people with an impairment and going over the 7 myths, which are all of these: frequently absent, unskilled, WHS insurance claim, less productive, don't fit in. We're going to go over what these mean, whether they are true or not. So these myths and realities exist when employing people with an impairment. They aren't myths that are just random statements that we've plucked out of thin air. They are 7 reoccurring reasons for not employing people with a disability or impairment from studies all over the world. Let's head into myth 1. People with impairment need expensive modifications in order to be productive employees. Is this true or is this not true? Not true. Not everyone needs those modifications. Impairments are like people. Every single one is unique and not everyone with an impairment needs special modifications. My advice is to ask any potential employee and find out what they do and don't need before presuming. Ben, my boss, readily admits that getting adaptations for impairments or disabilities can be expensive. Wheelchairs can cost up to over $20,000, and having a car modified to drive it could be over 50 grand. The thing is, these people already have these things, and they don't need anything else. And this is because they use it day to day. So, you've got to think about these things. They're going to have everything that they need. So there's no reason most of the time to stop you from employing them. And if they do need some modifications, there's of course help out there. So if employing an employee with an impairment does need that modification, they are often easy to work with and inexpensive. There is also a good chance that this isn't the first time that they've come across this barrier or question, and they will know how to work it out. All you need to do is ask. And finally, if they do require a modification that is expensive, then there is funding available, which we will cover later in the session. So it just shows that people with an impairment do not necessarily require adaptations to work in your workplace. Okay, let's head over to myth 2. People with impairment are frequently absent from work. Is this true or false? The opposite is true. According to the Disability Investment Group, A Way Forward, a new disability policy framework for Australia 2009 stated that 86% of employees with an impairment have the same or superior attendance rate. Studies show that they also have a reduced turnover rate, which means less onboarding costs for you and your business, meaning that you will actually be saving money. Why is this the case? Well, studies show that people who have a disability or an impairment have an unemployment rate which is double the rest of society. For people with a disability or impairment, it takes them twice as long to get a job before landing a job. One of Ben's friends actually applied for 183 positions before landing herself a job, and that takes patience. Imagine that. So due to the difficulty in getting employment, people with disability or impairment view the job as a great success and as a privilege, and not just a right. They will go the extra mile to keep that job. Such an important message to know. I had a guy in the UK when I was working in a gallery, and he had an impairment, and he was an older guy. Graham was his name. And he was so lovely, and he made all the standard size frames for us because that was sort of wholesale bulk sort of things that we needed to get done. And he loved his job. He was there every day. He'd look at his watch. He would only go to lunch at that time he was meant to. It would never go 1 minute over. He was always on time for work. Always there every day. He was just amazing, and he loved his job. And I think him and I even cried when I left. He was just beautiful. And if I had a business and I had the opportunity to employ someone like that, I would just love it. It's just a heartwarming thing to do. And I hope that some of you are thinking that that's what you want to do. Okay, now myth 3. People with impairment are only suited to unskilled work. Once again, massively untrue. There is such a range of skills, talents, and abilities. The Australian Bureau of Statistics reported that in 2012, 19.9 of working age people with an impairment or disability worked as professionals. 14.1 of working age people with impairment were employed as clerical and administrative workers. 15.2 of working age people with an impairment or disability were technicians or trade workers. 11.6 people with an impairment or disability had their own business. And 33.7 worked from home. So it just shows that don't just assume that people with disability or impairment can't do what it is you're looking for in an employee. And these people are going to do anything to keep that job with you. Myth 4. My workers' compensation and premium and WHS premium incidences will go up. Once again, not true. Employing someone with an impairment does not affect your premiums. Insurance underwriters look at the incident history of the workplace and compensations, not the number of people working at that business with an impairment. Further to that, studies have shown that employees with an impairment are 6 times less likely to have a WHS claim or incident and are less likely to lodge a workers' compensation claim, which will lower the business insurance. And the reason for this can be attributed to the difficulty it takes for someone with a disability or impairment in landing a job. If you find it hard to find employment and you're not if you find it hard to find employment, then you're not going to risk that employment by breaking rules or cutting corners. You're going to do the right thing because you don't want to have to apply for 183 jobs again. So they want to hold on to these jobs. They want to keep them, just like my friend Graham. Oh, he's probably still there today. He'd already been there, I think, 10 years when I got there, and he's probably still there today. He's an amazing person and such a benefit to that business. Myth 5. People with impairment are less productive employees. I can definitely say that is not true. Studies have shown that when matched with a job that is within their capability, people with impairment are just as productive as any other employees. Coupled with reduced absenteeism, reduced WHS claims and workers' compensation, and increased retention makes sense. People whose productivity is significantly reduced as a result of their impairment or disability may like to consider the supported wage subsidy. With the supported wage subsidy, eligible people with a disability or impairment can access a reliable process of productivity-based wages assessed to determine fair pay for fair work, which we will go over a bit more later on. Myth 6. Workers with impairment will not fit into my workplace. Not true. In most cases, co-worker acceptance comes from awareness and observing that the workers are competent and efficient in their jobs, regardless of their impairment. People with impairment make up to 20% of the Australian population, and the likelihood of clients or co-workers having a relative or friend with an impairment is high. Studies show that an employer initiatives in hiring people with an impairment can have positive bottom line results for your whole team. Increasing the staff morale and community recognition as a good corporate citizen, and in conclusion, your workers are just the same as everyone else and they just need to be given that chance. So important. Myth 7. If they don't work out, I cannot discipline or fire them. Not true. Employing a person with an impairment is the same as anyone else. You need to establish clear performance expectations from the start and if they are unable or unwilling to do the job, then you can take further action as necessary or as per normal. There are no special laws that prevent you from disciplining or terminating someone that is unable or unwilling to do the job. So those are the 7 myths, and I hope that you understand them, and some of them may have been surprising for you. I know that when I first read about them, I was like, wow, some of those I didn't know. And it just makes it, when you know these, you think, wow, yeah, okay, I could actually employ someone with a disability or impairment. There's so many things that I learnt from that. They're not, your workers' compensation premiums aren't going to go up, which is a huge thing, especially if you've got a big business, you're running a big business. So let's now go over the subsidies that are available for you as an employer to then start employing these people. So when employing a person with a disability or impairment, there are various opportunities depending on the job seeker profile and role hours. These are designed to offset training and other costs during the initial period of employment. The subsidies can be released in a lump sum or flexible payment, and they are contingent on the award rates being paid, the minimum hours being worked as per agreement, the employee being registered with a disability employment service provider, which we will go into more detail on the disability employment service providers tomorrow. But now we're going to go over the subsidies available for you and your employee. Okay, first up is wage subsidy. This is $1,500, and the requirements are that the employee is registered with a disability employment service. The candidate needs to average a minimum of 8 hours per week over 8 hours a week over the 13 weeks, with an intention of going on to 26 weeks. The payment is still made if the employee finishes at 13 weeks, which is amazing. You still get paid. And as well, if you've got someone that is working 8 hours a week, it doesn't actually have to be 8 hours a week, just as long as at the end of that period they have worked 13 weeks all up. So you could work 8 hours one week, 16 the next, and then none the week after. So as long as at the end of that period they've worked 13 weeks in total, then you can stagger the hours. Okay, next up is wage start, and this is $6,000. The requirements, once again, are that they are registered with a DES provider, that they are under the age of 50 years old, and have been long time unemployed for a year or longer. So they need to receive an average of 15 hours per week over a 26-week period. So same again with that, you can mix the hours up. It doesn't need to be 15 a week. It could be 30 one week and 15 one week and then a week off. You can juggle with it and see what fits your workplace. Okay, next is the restart subsidy. Now we're getting into some bigger numbers. This is $10,000, and the requirements again, registered with a DES provider, 50 and older, and have to have been unemployed for 52 weeks or longer. They need to receive an average of 20 hours per week over a 26-week period. And once again, you can chop and change the hours. Next is the supported wage system. This particular subsidy is more complicated, but in short revolves around the concept of fair pay for fair work. It allows candidates who cannot perform all job requirements to receive productivity-based wages and not disadvantage the employer financially. An assessment determines the gap between the actual required and standard performance due to the employee's health condition and disability, and the percentage of the hourly rate is then payable. So an example of this is that if it's determined someone is producing 70% of the job requirement, then the relevant award is applicable, but only at 70%. And someone will come in and sort out how that works within your business, depending on what it is they're doing. Okay, how can employers access these subsidies? Get in touch with your Disability Employment Service today in your region. And we will be discussing the Disability Employment Services in the next webinar. Okay, let's have a look at what JobAccess is. JobAccess is the national hub for workplace and employment information for people with disability, employers and service providers in Australia. They are funded by the Employment Assistance Fund, which is funded by the government. They offer financial assistance for workplace modifications that assist people with disability and impairment to gain meaningful employment. Let's now go over the workplace modifications and the subsidies that go with these. So, these are used for modifications and assistive technologies and services, such as the cost of making adjustments to the workplace. The subsidies could also be used for modifications to vehicles, workplace vehicles, or specialist equipment within the workplace. They could be used for information and communication devices, Auslan interpreting services, specialist services for employees with learning disorders or mental health conditions, used for the whole team in a workplace disability awareness training workshop, mental health and first aid training. So there's lots of things that you can bring into your workplace to make it easier, modifications, other employees, you can do training so that they can better understand disability and impairment and that person that they are working with a disability or impairment. So let's now go over to the application process. Most disability employment services will facilitate and arrange any assessments that are required. They know what to do and they do a brilliant job at it, but you can do it yourself if you like. So you submit the application to JobAccess and then JobAccess assesses your application. If the application is successful, JobAccess advises if a workplace assessment is required. If you're asking for something big, then they will come in and assess this requirement. If no assessment is required, then workplace purchases and goods, if there's no assessment required, then workplace purchases the goods and services, the workplace purchases them, and then JobAccess will refund. So you do need to, if there's anything that you need in the beginning small, then you will purchase it and then you'll be reimbursed. If JobAccess requires, if it's required, then they will arrange a specialist to come in and do the modifications and also use them for anything else that you have within your workplace to double check the accessibility for the person coming in with a disability or impairment. And once again, the workplace purchases the goods and services and is reimbursed once again. Funding caps. Physical workplace adjustments and building modifications are capped at $30,000. Auslan Level 1 interpreting for work-related activities for employees who are deaf or have a hearing impairment, including remote interpreting and real-time captioning, is capped at $6,000 for a 12-month period. Auslan Level 2 interpreting is for job interviews and related activities such as site visits, completion of tests, information sessions, and people who are deaf or have hearing impairment, is uncapped. Auslan Level 3 interpreting is to help co-workers receive a certificate in Auslan Level 2 to communicate with the employees who are deaf or have a hearing impairment and who use Auslan as their main method of communication. This is capped at 8.55. There's also available disability awareness training. If you employ a person with a disability or impairment, you can apply for funding for disability awareness training for your workplace, which is capped at $1,500 per employee with a disability, and to be used within a 12-month period. So every 12 months, you can get $1,500 to do a disability and awareness training workshop, which is something that we offer at Two Wise Monkeys and 30 Foot Drop. We go out into the community and we do disability and awareness training for businesses and services. So if you did have someone within your business, or you're thinking about employing someone within your business with a disability or impairment, then we can come in and help you with the training, or you can contact JobAccess to get someone in that knows Auslan, and your workers can learn Auslan Level 2 to then communicate with that person with the hearing impairment, which is amazing. So it's definitely not as hard as we all think it is. I mean, you go to JobAccess and they offer to fill the paperwork out for you. A lot of people I know would be put off by the fact that, oh, then I have to fill out 10 pages and do this and do that. But JobAccess will sort it out for you. And that is why they're sorting it out, because they want you to be able to employ people with disability and impairment. If it's made too hard, then people are more likely to walk away from it. But it's made easy, and there's funding out there, and there's so much to learn from it. I mean, how amazing would it be to learn Auslan? And it's all free. So something to think about if you're a business owner and you would like to employ someone with a disability or impairment. It'd be a really great thing to do as a community, and other businesses would follow on. So it would be amazing. I noticed the other day at the Good Guys, they had a guy in there with a mobility scooter, and he was working and people were coming up to him. It was just really awesome to see. He was included. Everything was accessible. And yeah, he would have been so happy, and the staff were happy. So please think about it. Now tomorrow we are going over the disability services and what they can do for you and how they work. So please join me for that tomorrow. That is it for this morning. I'm doing this again tonight from home. So please, if you know anyone that may benefit from this, send them along. But right now, if you have any questions, please jump over to the link below this video and send me any questions. I'm going to be turning the camera off for 5 minutes to give people time to send me a question. And I will see you soon. But if you do have to go, because it's almost lunchtime, please fill out the survey for us before you go. That'd be great. But everyone else that's staying, I will see you in 5 minutes. Okay, welcome back. There are no questions today, which is totally fine. I hope you all enjoyed this morning, and please, if you know anyone that may benefit from any of these webinars, send them along, because the more people that we can get to know about all these different things that we can do to help, the better we will be as a community moving forward. Thank you so much for joining me. I will see everyone again tonight for those that want to join me or send anyone my way. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.